press comes down like a held breath finally dropped. When the building shudders, it is hard to tell whether it's our work or theirs. I glove the hot cup with tongs, seated in the cradle, twist until the stamp aligns and give the pedal a slow heel. The die kisses the edge flat. Sparks float sideways. The bricked-over windows breathe ash. Above us, the overhead crane hangs, swaying. A blind metal pendulum aiming for our skulls. 3 hours into shift, after the third siren, we clamp new prayer strips to the press and count the tremors between cycles. The sky beats the floor answers, we keep feeding the line. I can run a die by sound. The machine has moods like anyone. Today it is calm but sulky. The return hiss drags a finger too long. I notch the lubricant flow, then tap the casing to hear the ring. The ring is everything. Wrong ring and the next man's rifle splits his hand. A good ring and he lives long enough to make more demands of us. Rao on my left breathes through his teeth. Swallowed a chip grinding down a bolt years ago, never got it out. Makes a whistle on the inhale. He stamps primers into shallow cups, passes the lot to me with a wrist flick practiced until it is sleep. I flare them into bodies and Ina catches them as they spit down the chute, her gloved palms black and smooth as grease. And we do not speak unless something will cut or explode. When the first shell hits the habstacks across the river, the light lifts in the upper glass and hangs there, then the sound comes down the rafters like spilled ball bearings. We blink. The overseer's servitor twitches its jaw hinge and keeps scribbling totals. The red-robed one on the catwalk touches a cog rune and pretends not to watch us watching him. The siren kisses the ear bones and lingers there. The line boss, Mara, puts 2 fingers to the throat where the chain sits and barks a prayer I can follow without hearing. Emperor keep or hands, machine keep or pace. The shutters slam. Day becomes soot smear. We tighten our caps and keep going. They told us at muster that there would be no stoppage. Output is the wall, Mara said. You want a wall more than you want to run. Nobody laughed. Running means stairs and stairs mean the street, and the street is the city with parts knocked out. So we stand here and make bite-sized answers to distant problems. The air is changing. The vents always taste of boiled metal and old sweat. Now there is a sweetness like singed paper. We share water tin cups on rotation. I pass mine along and watch the droplets waggle in place. The floor has its own weather. Tiny quakes, then stillness, then a drift left as if we are all aboard a ship that forgot it was made of concrete. The medici team pushes a gurney past, badged in white tape and repentance, and a boy from casting lies on it with both arms wrapped neat in cloth like loaves. His eyes do a child's thing, rolling up to see if the ceiling will open kindly. He will spend a day on blankets and then return to sweep with his feet, I think. There are no spare bodies this week. Over louder thunder, we hear the distinct brap of heavy guns just outside the river quarter. The windows flash again, only the bricks over them stay black. What flashes is the memory held inside each brick of the last sunny day. You can stare and watch it fade. Mara comes down the line with a bucket of chalk. On each press, she writes a number larger than the number it replaced. New quota, she says, sour as a saw. Ration will follow if you don't dishonor the count. She says ration like blessing. We nod as if we have mouths free for bread. Rouse whistle sharpens. Hear that? He asks under the clamor. What? Flyers. I pretend I don't. To hear it is to make it true. The roof plates ding and a rhythm's bits of rust fall into our hair and make constellations where sweat holds them. Power falters in a soft blackout, everything soundless and black except our own hearts. The red-robed one hums and the reserve bites in. The lamps return with a stomach-turning blue pulse. Every face is a bruise. The press surges and stamps a shell sideways. It jumps off the die and bites my glove. A crescent burns into the knuckle. and I whisper apology to the spirit and run the cycle again, slower. It is easy to be gentle when the world is ending. Nothing else deserves it. At last break, if this is still called that, we do not leave our stations. Mara walks and pours a thumb of alcohol into each tin cup. I share with Ina. She wipes her mouth and closes her eyes. I make a careful place for my burnt glove and wonder if the skin underneath will come off with it. And the roof gives a long, low scream like a pressed nail tearing free. A squad tramps through, boots leaving dark water on the floor. Their faces look carved, not so much hard as emptied out. One smiles at Ina and then at the press. He runs a thumb along the die as if it is a pet that will not bite a proper hand. Good, he says. Good, he doesn't mean us. He means it. He means the river of brass. He speaks into his vox and says a number, the number being us. After their backs pass, Ina says, and we used to make hinges in the tone people use for names of the dead. I feed another bright cup into the cradle and do not look outside. If there is no outside, there can be no beyond, and I can contain the colors to the ones I know. Brass, oil, old blood brown, skin foolish enough to be pink. A tremor stutters through, shorter, meaner, like laughter from the next room. The press shivers beneath my palm. I soothe it with the heel of my hand, privately the way you pat a dog behind the ear where the fur is thin. The line around us keeps singing, shrieks and bites and vibrations we have grown with like an extra rib. Someone farther back starts the morning hymn, though it is long past noon. We mouth a piece of it, enough to grease the hinge on the moment. Then the first crack appears in the floor. It is a hairline between my boots. I plant my heels around it as if it belongs there and always has. The crack grows a brother, and they travel toward the wall between us and the river as if called. A sound grows to meet them, a grind that is not machinery, more like teeth. Ina's hands do not stop. Rouse whistle becomes a thin, steady keen that matches the pitch of the floor. The klaxon over the west gate chokes to life. A priest of some order I do not know drags a cart down the aisle behind dogged servitors. The cart is a shrine on wheels and also a locker of ammunition. He throws pouches to the soldiers who have appeared from air. They stack boxes behind our presses, using our machines for cover. One of them winks at me. I do not see either of my hands return the gesture, though they must have my fingers prickle as though I touched live wire. Keep the line up, Mara says in a voice after screaming. She is no taller, but somehow she is above us. You keep the line up, and you breathe. That is the same thing. That is the first time I believe we might die here. I standing up. It is a relief. It is a room with a door. Something slams the west gate from outside. Something too big to be a man and too fast to be a machine. The gate seems to swell. A soldier sets a charge on a barrel and murmurs to the flame, when the gate opens, there will be an answer. He strokes the press's paint. In another second, the argument at the gate ends in exchange. A glare through seams, sparks in a blossom. The gate breathes in, breathes out, and then bursts. The air goes a direction it shouldn't. All the dust in one language lifts and swims into new words. The shock folds me and I see the press tilt. My hands go up under it, though it weighs as much as a carriage. I do not hold it, only give it the idea of being held until the bolts catch. The die kisses my palm through the glove as if grateful, as if learning my name. That is the last gentle thing today. Through the hole come men, but not, and with masks tight to faces and shoulders like anvils. They walk low, purposeful like foremen about to cut wages. Behind them, things on limbs that don't move right, as if the floor is wrong for their feet. The defenders shout words I know and words I don't. Ina screams without script. Rao loads a pistol he should not have and aims it two-handed like holding an argument straight. I do not have a gun. I have the pedal. The first of them hurls a canister that bounces and spins at my boots, and it hisses and births white. My eyes drown on air. We vanish to each other. In the white, I feel the press. My foot finds the pedal because my bones know where it lives. I bring the die down as something dark crosses the guard. It is not supposed to. Rules say safeguards, say prayers, say no. The die obeys me, a crunch like biting a wet peach. The pressing arm stutters at the overload, then resets itself like it has made a decision. When the white clears, there is a thing under the die that was a forearm. The hand beyond it opens and closes, trying to make a different past. Shock fulfilled, the factory becomes two places at once, the line and the fight. The lines become barricades, the fight becomes the only prayer left. Rao gags on the gas and then laughs, a wild dog sound, and fires until the pistol clicks. Ina wedges shells into the soldiers' open belts with a speed I have never seen. Mara rips the cover off a control box and slaps breakers until flood lamps roar up, slashing the white into islands. We see the west side at last, the gate hanging in ribbons, the yard beyond a field of hammered mud figures in wrong armor leaping the broken lip with the quickness of hunger. When they find cover, they make it out of us. A body tips against my leg and the boots on it yet twitch. I step over them because the tray is full and those shells must go somewhere, and my mouth tastes like old nails. Somebody shouts, "Pull them through." We turn the conveyor that used to feed to crate, and its belt now brings boxes to the firing line. Where the belt splits, blood runs thick and black like coolant. Nobody slips because we have learned balance on wet floors since we were small. The man who set the charge on the barrel smiles again, strangely tender, and prints powder onto his palms like a baker. He throws, and a piece of the intruder's cover lifts away in a new, wrong shape. The man who had been behind it becomes stains on three surfaces, profligate with himself. I see his hand land on my workbench and do not brush it away because it is still holding a match. And I take the match because it is useful. Someone starts the chant that we use when the line wants to stall. It is about steady hands and watched gauges. The soldiers around us pick it up. Their words slide wrong inside it still. It keeps our feet. A figure in a yellowed coat climbs the overhead rail with a torch and begins cutting a manipulator arm free. It thrashes and whines in language only it understands, and he pats it. With a grunt and a falling spark rain, the arm drops. We drag it to face the rent gate. It is a machine built to lift vats, slow and obedient. Made it with belts and a grip, and it changes truth. The manipulator becomes a flail. Every turn knocks a man from his run. We name it. We call it Mother because it swings in our defense and is too big to be gentle. Time breaks into jobs. I become hands, then ears, then something that threads the two. The power dips, we reroute. The breakers arc and spit at our faces. A man I do not know dies pressed between two crates we push together for cover. We do not pull him out because the lip of the crates must meet. My mouth forms words with hands I do not see. The machine keeps time. This is the only thing that does. Once, in a lull like the space between inhale and cough, I look for Rao and do not see him. Ina's hair has come out of its tie and he is maybe in it, a part of the black mass. I do not feel what I am supposed to. I open a box and my finger finds a slot that is not there. My glove is split to the end and I see the white bead of bone at the nails quick. I tape it with cloth from the dead man's shirt because cloth from living men must stay on them. The yellow-coated man still on the catwalk takes a bullet to the throat and does not fall. He stands watching his hands as they clamp to the rail instead of his neck. After a long second, he pitches forward slow as rust. He hits a stack of sheet steel and makes a sound like gong and rain together. We do not look away because it feels like if we do, he will have fallen for no reason. A new rumble awakens. For a blink, I think the machine is speaking at last, telling us it will only do this if we love it properly. But the sound comes from outside, the kind that shaves the hairs on the arms right down to skin. Something enormous settles onto the yard like a foot testing a rotten step. Our roof plates hum with it. The defenders lift their faces in the same small angle. Even the invaders pause behind their chunks of wall. It is a hold-your-breath sound, and we hold ours. There is no math to how long it lasts. Then a spear of light crosses the yard and touches the far warehouse. The warehouse forgets that it is a building. It lifts into dust that tastes like old bread. The edge of the light licks across our gate, and all the iron there goes soft and then crooked. A soldier screams one word into the vox again and again until it becomes a beat. Mara, without turning her head, grabs my collar and drags me down as every gun on our side throws its voice in a different pitch. I do not see who carries the load. I see boxes emptying under my hands and the conveyor running faster, and I press the pedal so the die doesn't drift, and Mother continues her slow, ruinous swing. The flood lamps blow at once. We are in guttering torchlight and the intermittent legend of tracer fire. In that shifting light, men lose outlines. Once I almost bring the die down on Ina's wrist because her sleeve and the intruder's glove are the same shade of oil. She jerks back with a curse that is also a plea. I wedge my boot under the pedal when I step away. The pedal keeps trying to find my foot, faithful as a dog. Teams form without names. At one point, I am sent with 4 others to the sub-level to find more belts. The stairs are a throat-swallowing smoke. The sub-level is half-flooded, chemicals painting a lily film on black water. We wade to the storage room and the chain is locked, but soft with heat it breaks like sugar between pliers. Inside, belts, grease tins, prayer seals. I fill my arms. A rat walks over my boot without hurry. Its fur is streaked in colors that do not belong to life. We come up coughing into a different soundscape, death nearer, shouts lower, and the gate is still open tonight. In that dark mouth the fight flares and gutters. More men in wrongness come over the lip and drop to the floor with the gracelessness of tired gods. One is larger, paint on armor like dried roses, his mask sharp as winter. He strides straight for the line and I am in his way. He moves me aside with a backhand. I do not feel bones break, I only find myself on my knees and there is oil on my tongue because I am licking the floor. He raises his weapon towards someone out of my vision. The pedal is under my other knee. I press. The die drops and glances strike sparks off his pauldron. It is nothing to him except the telling of a direction. He turns his mask to me. It is impossible to tell from eyes or mouth what is decided. The soldier who smiled puts a round into the mask and the mask blossoms red, and the man denies this for a heartbeat. Then consent comes to him like delay in an echo. He falls backward over the tray, and the shells there roll over his chest plate like rain. The soldier touches my shoulder and says something, I assume gratitude, and stand. Water is off. Mara orders buckets. We pass them hand to hand to the barrel where the priest dampens rags and kisses each forehead he can reach. The red-robed one goes station to station, running lines over lines. His mechadendrites working in quiet meditations I think are comforting someone inside him I will never meet. We begin to win in the way factories win, by not stopping. The intruders falter in the teeth of our schedules. A lull opens wide enough to hear, an absence that feels obscene. It closes with shots along the wall, the last of them draw back to the dark beyond the gate where great footsteps fade. The man with the smile falls then, and a small collapse as if he had been leaning on something that went away. Ina kneels by him and smooths his hair. He is already somewhere the smoothing will not improve. Seal, Mara says, not to me or to anyone. To the line, perhaps. To the seam torn in our day. We drag plates to the gate's mouth. Sparks jump from torch to steel and stay there. We work bent, eyes running from the smoke as the front becomes a wall. Guns still talk through it in little formal bursts like punctuation. I find Rao against the east wall sitting like a child, head tipped back, mouth open. His chest jumps in ugly jerks as if trying to cough out rope. There is a hole in his stomach and his hand is in it, not to hold anything in. I think he knows better, but because it is a place to put a hand. He sees me and whistles once, sharp as when the die was tuned. I do not know what he wants. I sit and put my hand on his shoulder because it is the least confusing thing to do. He nods as if I have done a right job. His breath stops. I do not close his eyes because he used them for work and he might still need them. I take his chalk and mark the new quota on the nearest press. Hours disappear with the easy obedience of rats when the lights come on. We clean the blood off the belts because blood gums them and brings a stutter. We pick shell fragments out of rubber with knife tips. And we count. Mara counts aloud until her voice fails, then mouths the numbers. The priest snores, squatting up like a bird, his chin tucked on his breast, still holding a rag. We strip torn filters from the vents and jam new ones on. They glow, then blacken. Then there is quiet. It is raw as a bald scalp. It lasts long enough for me to notice the weight inside my left glove is wrong. I cut it off carefully. The skin comes with it in a pale glove of its own, and below that the hand is slick and new as a peeled fruit. I flex it and it feels borrowed. I cannot tell if the machine did this or I did. I hold my hand over the coolant stream to teach it to be less angry. My reflection cobbles together in the ripples and breaks apart again, unwilling to hold a face. The floor is warm. It hums in a key I have lived inside all my life. We eat from tins that taste of metal and the last thing to touch them. I fall asleep sitting up, my head against the press, and then wake because the dye has grazed my hair. It is a new day or an old one refusing to die, and the roof breathes ash like it has lungs after all. The new seam across the gate is already sweating rust. Reset, Mara says. We reset. There are fewer hands to do the same work. Bodies have been carried to the yard and stacked with tarps woven from torn canvas and hope. The priest sprinkles them with water that steams. It smells like rain in a place that has never seen it. And the red-robed one attends the press and lays a strip of parchment under its guard, then touches it with a tool like a tiny claw. It smokes as if agreeing to terms. I place the first cup. The pedal nudges my foot in a polite request. We run quieter now, not out of respect but because the bearings say so. Our ears are split, our noses streaming. Ina has wrapped cloth around her hands until they look like tools proper. Every time the line stops, someone does not jolt, we count and go on. An hour in, the alarms begin again. Duller now, as if they too are tired. We do not look at the gate it holds because we made it. That is the same as a law. The ground gives us another conversation, this one further away. The sky slumps to a different color beyond the roof slats. I tilt my head and oil comes out of my ear. I wipe it on my sleeve and leave a mark that looks like a road we have not walked. I press the pedal. The die comes down with mild finality. I lift it in and the shell rolls into the tray with a ringing pure as water in a glass. That ring goes out into the room and other rings answer it, and the rings together are a second heartbeat. I seat the next cup without looking away from the seam of the new wall where a single line of bright metal sweats and cools and holds.